MeMonster.
Chapter 316. 1 week later. On the 7th floor of Niflheim, in the central hangar, a medium-class airship was being readied for departure. Sleipnir. Its obsidian-black, streamlined hull bore the crest of Niflheim, carved deep into the metal. This was no ordinary vessel, but the flagship chosen for the high-speed breakthrough phase of the Eden assault operation. Status of operation readiness. Saris's voice rang out from the command room at the top of the hangar, her gaze fixed on the adjutant beside her. External armor and anti-aircraft cannons are installed. Contamination countermeasures are complete. Combat supplies and fuel are at full capacity. We're ready for deployment at any time. Well done. Once the operation officially begins, have the fleet assemble in Dimension 1000. If we succeed, a dimensional gate will open to the boundary. Yes, ma'am. Then issue a standby order to all troops. As you command, glory to the Black Goat! The young officer snapped a crisp salute to Saris, then exited the control room. At last. Aaron clenched his trembling fist, feeling the weight of the moment. The day of the operation had finally arrived. In the control room, the members of the 13th floor assigned to board Sleipnir had gathered, joined by senior Niflheim officers and aides who had come to see them off. All the assembled heroes gazed solemnly through the reinforced glass at the airship beyond. I did everything I could. The tip of Ruin's spear had been honed to perfection. He had practiced the motion of driving the weapon into a target countless times. The spear strapped to his back glinned with a cold, deadly light. Brother, I'm coming. Aaron's eyes sharpened. Have you all finished saying your goodbyes to your subordinates? Saris asked, her gaze sweeping across the room. Rydian, having just finished speaking with his secretary, chuckled. We'll see them again soon enough. Told her to go sharpen my sword. I'm all set too. Nothing left for me either, Yernit said, closing her book with a quiet snap. To the right of the control room, a dimensional gate already connected to Sleipnir shimmered faintly. The operational crew. Aaron glanced around. The Eden assault was meant to be carried out by the first party alone, but more people had volunteered to board than originally planned. Yernit had initially been slated to manage Sleipnir's system solo, but once word of the mission spread, numerous heroes had stepped forward. In the end, 11 mechanics were selected to handle internal repairs, controls, and anti-aircraft weaponry, along with 2 operators responsible for relaying mission updates. Every one of them had accepted the possibility of death. I will say this again. Your survival during this mission cannot be guaranteed. If you wish to withdraw, do so now. No, ma'am. Please allow us to contribute to the effort to save the Master. The leader of the mechanics shouted. Saris sighed softly, then nodded. I trust everyone has reviewed the mission briefing from last night. Everyone in the command room stood at once. Saris cast a clear, piercing gaze over them all, then gripped the hilt of Levitain. The red scabbard shimmered with radiant light. All units board. Ignite the fire of the fallen star. All units boarding. Mission commencement. Vroom. The dimensional gate in the corner of the room flashed, signaling activation. Saris led the way and stepped inside. The heroes followed in a solemn procession. Whew. Aaron took several deep breaths. Once he passed through that gate, there would be no turning back. I'm sorry, Nina, but I'll come see you. I promise. Saris that promised him leave after the mission. He would see his sister's face again. He might even bring his master home. Let's go! Glory to Niflheim! Next, the non-combat personnel entered. The 2 operators and 11 mechanics filed into the gate, in orderly rows. We wish you all victory! High-ranking officers within Niflheim's top 100 watched from behind. Outside the control room in the plaza, thousands of Niflheim's heroes were likely cheering them on. All aboard last. The total number of passengers aboard Sleipnir, 17. Aaron moved to the rear of the line. A senior officer scanning the line narrowed his eyes. He leaned in to whisper to his superior. There seems to be a discrepancy in the selected personnel. What discrepancy? We were told there would be 17 passengers, but look over there. 18. 1 extra. When was another mechanic added? I will verify. A middle-aged man in uniform stepped forward. Everyone halt! Step away from the dimensional gate." The boarding line stopped. After checking the line once, he narrowed his eyes. "Seems there's a rat among us." His gaze landed on Aaron, who stood at the end. Aaron saluted with precision and spoke up. "Sir Nadach, this mission cannot tolerate even the slightest mistake. I ask you to take appropriate measures. Our Niflheim has made many enemies. The enemy may have sent spies from the remaining unpurged waiting rooms." Aaron ran his hand through his hair, then spoke quietly. "There's no issue." What?" "I received a new report yesterday. 11 mechanics were selected for this mission." "I've never heard such a report." The officer paused, then awkwardly saluted. "My apologies. Such matters should indeed be reported to the highest authority. Forgive me for disrupting the flow. For Niflheim's victory." The uniformed officer stepped back. Boarding resumed. Highest authority, huh? Aaron was neither from Niflheim nor someone who had accomplished anything extraordinary. He was merely a parachute case, placed in the 13th floor by Muden, who had stepped aside for him. And yet, no one protested. There was only one reason: their absolute trust in Niflheim and in Loki. To think discipline like this could exist. Aaron stepped back into line, then approached the mischievous stowaway. "Miss Jenna." A nearby mechanic walking beside him pulled her cap down low. "This sort of behavior won't end well. If you're found out, you'll be kicked out immediately." "I'm not sure what you're talking about, sir." "You won't be able to hide your identity once we're on board." Jenna, I don't know anyone by that name." Sigh. Aaron let out a deep breath. "We'll talk inside." "Oh, what business does a famed 13th floor hero have with a humble mechanic like me?" The girl winked her brown eyes playfully and stepped through the dimensional gate. Aaron followed after her. On the other side of the gate, a long corridor awaited, the second deck of Sleipnir. At the far end was the ship's main control room. "This way." Aaron grabbed the girl's arm and pulled her into a storage room off to the side. He locked the door from the inside, then removed her cap. Round, brown eyes, red hair, a playful sparkle in her gaze as she looked around. "Niflheim's airship sparkles on the inside too. They must have dumped a mountain of money into this." "Miss Jenna." "Why are you calling me that?" "What are you doing here?"
"Well, obviously I came to help my brother." Jenna shrugged her shoulders. "Like that scary-looking lady would give me the time of day if I tried talking to her. Unlike you, Aaron, I don't have connections. If I'd known this would happen, I would have sweet-talked the director last time I came." So I snuck in." Jenna grinned playfully. "You could go back home now, couldn't you?" "I was going to, but suddenly I felt really bitter about it. They praise me like I was the right hand of God, and then as soon as I'm not useful, they toss me away like garbage. Isn't it the same for you, Aaron? You're not about to say it's fine for you to stay but not for me, right? That'd be really disappointing." "That's..." Aaron trailed off. Jenna nudged him in the side with her elbow. "If you help me out a little, I could be pretty useful in this operation, you know." She rummaged through her coat and pulled out a small glowing stone. "Know what this is? It's a dimensional stone. Velkist Opa and I went through hell to get it. If you shake it, voom." A pulse of vivid magic rippled out and a dimensional gate began to form. Jenna waved her hand dispelling the gate, then tucked the stone away. "It can open a gate to Taunia." Her tone was mischievous, but her eyes were deadly serious. Aaron frowned, thinking hard. He could tell Jenna wasn't joking. She had truly come here to help his brother. Even so, it wasn't something to take lightly. His voice came out low and firm. "The place we're going is severely contaminated, and the enemies they're beyond anything you'd call a monster. You'll have to be ready to die. There's no need for you to go through that." "No." Jenna seized Aaron's right hand, squeezing so hard the back of her hand turned white. "I'll go home eventually, but I can't end things like this. I want to see my brother again, in our hometown. The others feel the same way. Like you said, we came here prepared to risk our lives. I've been hiding on board and listening in on the mission briefings. Let us help. We'll be useful, I promise." "How many of you are there?"
Velkist Opa, Kishasha Ani, and Katio too. Ah, you probably don't know them. There are more. They all made up their minds, for you who fought for us. Aaron and Jenna locked eyes. Then Aaron exhaled deeply. We'll have to keep this from Cirrus. Duh, obviously. They definitely get an earful later, but if it's for my brother, I can endure that. Aaron continued. Wait here. Stay in the storage room. Aye, Jenna Corps standing by for deployment. She gave a bold salute. Heroes of Townia. Aaron recalled the man named Velkist. That fierce, talented fighter had once brought about Aaron's own demotion. Huh. I hope to cross swords with that man again someday. Aaron shook his head and left the storage room. Before long, he arrived at Sleipnir's command bridge. The bridge spanned over 100 pyong. At the front was a giant viewing window with panels and control stations flanking both sides. Nihaku, standing beside the captain's seat in the center, turned around. What took you so long, Junior? Stomach ache? Yes, sorry about that. Aaron cleared his throat. You're not very good at lying, kid, Redigian smirked, leaning against the wall near the door. Aaron flinched. We just got a report. Someone else boarded the ship. I won't ask questions. Thank you. Aaron glanced around the bridge. Sleipnir had already left Niflheim and was heading towards Server 1 at high speed. Cirrus stood at the front reviewing the operation dossier, while Yurnet chanted a spell atop a large magic circle on the right. Good thing they're both busy. Aaron sighed of relief. If either one of them found out, this wouldn't pass quietly. Yurnet's voice rang out through the command bridge. Soon, a hologram of a robed woman appeared on the main panel. I am Sizzle of Mobius. Can you hear me, people of Niflheim? We hear you. Looks like the link is stable, Cirrus responded. Sizzle raised her hand, and at that moment, in Pick Me Up, a massive hologram message flashed across the left side of the bridge. Welcome, Master Anything, to Pick Me Up. Patch code 1103, account name changed to Niflheim. Patch code 5313, control menu and login method updated. Patch code 3365, data transmission method revised. Patch code 9754. The login message from Anything, the Master of Townia. Loading complete. Touch. Select. Anything's interface entered the main menu. Her control panel now showed the image of Sleipnir exiting the current field.
Chapter 317. The mission board at the top of the control room lit up. Sleipnir, carrying the assembled heroes, was cutting through the space between dimensions, heading toward the transit point of Server 1. We're entering the next phase. Saris knit Yornt's eyes. Yornt gave a nod and pulled a jet-black greatsword from within her cloak. Loki's sword, Bifrost, the medium that would transfer all of Niflheim's data. Ding! Master, Hero Saris, 6-star, has requested data transmission. Required data size, 27 gigabytes. Warning, Wi-Fi is recommended. Performing this task on a mobile network may incur charges. Proceed with the operation. Yes, select, or no. It was a massive data load, but Anything didn't hesitate. The moment she pressed yes, the magic circle beneath Yornt blazed with light. Initiating data transfer. Yornt drew complex arcane formulas in mid-air. Bifrost floated into the air. Beginning data transfer. Downloading 00001/54763. Estimated time, 53 minutes. Saris folded her arms. That master doesn't know anything. She had only told Anything the bare minimum. Your hero is in danger. That alone was enough for the master to join the mission. Her true motives, I can't read them. But maybe that didn't matter. As long as it helped the master, it was fine. We made it in time. Server 1 data rewriting is complete. Cecil's hologram continued the explanation.
From here on, the Eden assault will be treated as an official mission, probably the final mission of Pick Me Up. You should receive several bonuses for it. That was another reason Saris had called anything in. The final mission. If they could establish a dynamic of master versus heroes versus monsters, the system could forcibly register it as a mission. Saris and her team had cleared dozens of high-difficulty missions. In this environment, it would greatly aid their operation. Server 1 is in worse condition than expected. The difficulty level is high. It doesn't matter. Click. Saris released the lock on her scabbard. Sleipnir was entering the field adjacent to Server 1. Beyond it lay Eden. Full speed ahead, we're breaking through without stopping. Aaron lifted his eyelids. The scenery around him was flying past in a blur. He was standing on the deck of the airship. After a brief briefing, the 13th floor members had relocated. Junior, you remember your role, yes? At the rear of the deck, Nihaku muttered. To her left stood Redigian. I haven't forgotten. He had memorized it hundreds of times. Eliminate all threats in the way. Most of the small fry would be handled by the airship's automated defenses, but among them there would be elite enemies. Those were Aaron and Redigian's targets. And most important, Zing Zing. Ruin's spearhead trembled slightly. Aaron's most critical role, to unleash obligation and pierce the dimensional barrier. 10 seconds to operation start. This vessel is entering Server 1. An operator's voice echoed across the deck. Don't worry, shouldn't be much trouble if things go as expected. I'm not worried. Aaron adjusted his grip on the spear. He just prayed the girl hiding in the storage room wouldn't need to step in. 5 seconds. All personnel brace for impact. A warning panel popped up in Aaron's field of vision. Warning. 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 The standard alert before high-level missions. Then the mission details unfolded. Floor 0. Mission type, Transcendence. Objective, break through the dimensional boundary. The mission type had been assigned directly by Cecil, because, she said, this word suited them best. 3, 2, 1. Boom! A crushing pressure slammed into them. Sleipnir had entered the interdimensional corridor. The world outside the airship turned pitch black. Entering Server 1. Thud. A second shock rippled through the ship. Aaron gripped the railing tightly. 0, 0, 0, 0, dimension EDEN. The scenery around them changed in an instant. Tangled towers, endless roads, a warped and twisted urban ruin. This was the center of Server 1, Eden. All the structures were corroded and contaminated. Buildings were stained with some unknown black substance, and thick clouds of pollution drifted around the elevated roads. The effects of spatial distortion. Only a month had passed outside, but inside this dimension, centuries had gone by. Unidentified contaminants, level unknown, times 565. From between the buildings and beneath the roads, thousands of red eyes glared. They had sensed the intruders. They're coming, Redigian murmured. Contaminants, shaped like massive spiders, began to swarm up the rooftops. The upper sky was completely consumed by ultra-dense clouds of corruption. There was no way upward. Like it or not, they would have to cut through the buildings below. Whew! Aaron gripped his spear tighter. Unidentified contaminants, level unknown, times 1,357. The enemy forces were multiplying at incredible speed. Their glowing eyes sealed off every gap between buildings and roads. The passage was completely blocked. If they tried to pass through by force, Sleipnir would be vaporized. Vrrrr. Sleipnir began to accelerate. Unidentified contaminants, level unknown, times 1,421. There are more than expected. Aaron bit his lip. The contaminants were multiplying like insects. The entire region was turning black. Trust her. Redigian turned to the right. Beside him, Nihaku stood with her hand out. Come forth, Brianak. Crack, bzzz. Bolts of golden lightning surged from her body. In her hand, a golden bow took form. Divine weapon unleashed. The 13th floor members of Niflheim were each already equal to top-tier 6-star heroes. But when they unlocked the exclusive weapons bestowed by their master, they transcended even that. The 5 pieces of transcendent equipment Loki had painstakingly crafted. Brianak, the thunderstorm bow, was one of them. Flash! Nihaku's eyes gleamed gold. From both ends of the bow, wings of lightning spread wide. With sparks crackling from her hand, she raised the bow toward the front. The airship was nearing the city's outer buildings. Unidentified contaminants, level unknown, times 1,679. Boom! A golden trajectory surged from Brianak. The contaminants in its path exploded in flames. Boom! Second shot. A swarm weaving between buildings was vaporized in a single blast. Boom! Third shot. Masses of creatures crowding the overpass disintegrated like spring snow. Boom! 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 It was less archery and more aerial bombardment. Each shot momentarily lit up the surroundings. At the 12th shot, the lightning arrow underwent a transformation. Its trajectory began to bend mid-flight. The bolts of thunderlight twisted in different directions, incinerating monsters in every direction. Huh? Hundreds of contamination creatures blocking the path were cleanly wiped out. Sleipnir passed straight through the middle of the building without a single obstruction. Sleipnir has arrived in Eden, Zone 1. A message signaling safe passage. Redigian spoke. Don't concern yourself with the small fry. Understood. Crackle. Each shot carried lethal force.
Bolts of thunderlight continued to shoot out relentlessly around Sleipnir. But, whoa! Even more than were destroyed, more appeared. Spider-like masses, each the size of a human, erupted non-stop from the pillars under the overpass, from cracks in shattered stores, and from offices in collapsed buildings. Unidentified contamination creatures, level unknown, times 1,932. Ta-ta-ta-ta! The anti-air guns mounted along the airship's sides began to fire. Thunder arrows and magic shells swept through the area, forming a dense web of fire. Incredible! The limbs of contamination creatures, their thick black blood, and debris from buildings pelted down onto the deck. The sight was dizzying. Aaron, who had only just completed the climb to the 20th floor, had never directly faced enemies on this scale before. Insufficient firepower for extermination. I'm aware. Nihaku performed a somersault and leapt high into the air. Lightning flared wildly around her entire body. Special! Crack! The lightning arrows she fired downward split into numerous branches. The countless strands of lightning merged and scattered freely, wiping out the monsters. Here I go full blast! A massive spark surged upward, sweeping across the entire airship. Meanwhile, status report. Saris muttered inside the ship. The girl seated at the operator's station opened her mouth. The number of contamination creatures is 37% higher than predicted. All other conditions remain within acceptable margins. Saris nodded. On the holographic map of the tactical screen, a green dot representing Sleipnir was progressing towards its destination. The area around the green dot was filled with red dots, enemy markers. Nihaku was especially specialized in large-scale extermination among the 13th floor members. The contamination covering the entire airship was being rapidly cleared by Nihaku's shooting and the anti-air gun's auxiliary bombardment. The real issue is whether elite units existed that could break through Nihaku and the airship's defensive system. Sure enough, as they approached the center of Zone 1, a particularly bright red dot appeared on the tactical screen. Shadow of Fallen God, level 137. Elite unit has appeared. Saris checked the monitor. Beneath the airship, a humanoid shadow was climbing up a skyscraper. Shadow of Fallen God, a monster that Urnet had warned them to be especially wary of. Its nature was the remnants of divinity absorbed by Loki fused with contamination matter. Its combat power was on a completely different level than ordinary contaminants. Redigian? He reports that he's ready. Saris gave a small nod. They couldn't afford to let something like that onto the airship. It had to be dealt with at a distance. That job fell to Redigian, who specialized in interpersonal combat. Tell him to eliminate it. As you command. The operator pressed a red button. Redigian's voice echoed in her ear. Bit of a shame. You're sending me down alone into that writhing mess. Silence. Redigian's updated form dropped from beneath the airship. Once he dealt with the priority target, he would return to the deck using a return stone. So far, so good. There were a lot of monsters. The density of the contamination cloud seemed pretty thick too, but it was still within the predicted parameters. The mission might be classified as S rank, but for the members of Party 1, this kind of operation was something they'd cleared to the point of boredom in Niflheim. Minimize combat. There is no need to take them all on. Just eliminate the minimum necessary enemies blocking the path, reach the barrier that sealed the perimeter, then pierce it with Aaron's spear, enter the interior, and finish the job. The core objective is simple. Sleipnir was an airship specialized in breakthrough operations. Before long, the ship cleared Zone 1. Sleipnir has entered Eden Zone 2. The final destination lay in Zone 3. If everything went according to plan, they could reach it within 30 minutes. Redigian has returned. Not even 10 minutes had passed when the return signal arrived. Redigian had successfully dealt with the monster. As expected, he'd become even stronger than Saris had known. The shadow this time was a lower-tier divine being, but still incomparable to ordinary monsters. Downloading 213,401 of 547,637. Estimated completion time, 21 minutes. The data transfer being handled by your net and anything was also proceeding smoothly. Increased speed. Will arrive in 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am. It was more than doable. As long as she fulfilled her role, the mission would go off without a hitch. Master, please wait for us. Leviathan's blade slid halfway from its sheath. And then, clunk! The lights in the control room flickered briefly, and the interior shook violently. Saris checked the tactical screen. It wasn't a physical attack, no visible damage to the airship, but Sleipnir had come to a stop in the middle of Zone 2. What is it? Unknown data interference. Data interference. Saris turned to look at Urnet. She was too focused on the data transfer to respond. If it's data interference, a hacking attempt? By who? Lady Saris, the source is requesting communication. It's not Sigel, is it? The transmission code doesn't match. Put it through. Saris stared at the forward monitor. Bzzz, static flickered across the screen. Until you come, I'll be... Wait. A voice full of noise echoed through the control room. If you interfere, you die. What's the transmission code name? FRE Why? Chapter 318. Aaron raised his hand to his ear. From the miniature communicator tucked inside, a voice came through. Who's Frey? It was Sirius's voice. No search results. Unidentified entity. It doesn't appear to be a residual divinity or a monster. Presumed to be a mutant contamination creature. A mutant contamination creature? Aaron narrowed his eyes. That's strange. A sense of unease crept in. Urnet, halt transmission for a moment. Aaron glanced around. Sleipnir, which had been advancing through the heart of the city, had slowed considerably. Rocket fuel sprayed from the rear of the airship, but it wasn't generating proper thrust. Was that thing interfering? From the context, it seemed the mutant contamination creature codenamed Frey had begun to disrupt the airship's systems. Why are we stalling? There's only so much we can leave to Nihaku. Ridigian looked toward Nihaku, who stood on the deck. She was dashing along a building beside the airship, firing bolts of lightning at the surrounding enemies. We've got a problem, came Urnet's low voice. In this mission, speed was everything. They had to cross the field as quickly as possible before the contamination creatures, alerted to the intrusion, could gather. But with a variable like this, an unforeseen incident. The airship's engine is impaired. There's no physical damage, but at this rate, we won't be able to accelerate. Screech! Crackle crack! Hiya cha-cha-cha-cha! Nihaku darted about, tangled with the contamination creatures. Amidst it all, the anti-air cannons on the deck blazed with fire. Hacking, remote interference. With interference power at this level, it's comparable to a lower-tiered divinity. I suggest we return. So we're eliminating the mutant contamination target. Then, Ridigian reached for the hilt at his waist. No time to waste. What are its coordinates? Reverse tracking complete. Emergency engine activated. From now on, Sleipnir will enter pursuit and elimination mode against the unidentified entity, Frey. Click. A section of the airship's side opened and a massive propeller emerged. Sleipnir veered sharply to the right. I'll leave the target elimination to the two of you. What intel do we have on it? Based on waveform analysis, it's a divinity mimic. A fairy, then. Ridigian nodded. Fairy. Aaron drew a deep breath. Isn't it strange? What's strange? According to Miss Sizel's explanation, all the fairies evacuated from Server 1. So why would... There are stragglers in every world. But still, Aaron Nidalk, haven't you been briefed on our objective? Ridigian's gaze turned cold. I know. To rescue his older brother. Aaron was well aware of what mattered most. Even if one or two members of the current party died, the mission had to be completed. Our goal is to rescue the Master. If anything interferes with that, it gets eliminated. If you're going to live as a hero of Niflheim, you'd best remember that. Let's move. Ridigian tapped the railing twice. Whirr! The propeller spun roughly, and the airship lurched forward again. Emergency engines won't last long. Please complete this in under 30 minutes. I'm returning to the transmission operations. Understood. Nihaku! Yes, sir! I'm on your tail! Nihaku leapt across the rooftop, performing a series of aerial flips before dashing along the side of a building. With the ship's speed now greatly reduced, it was possible to keep up on foot. Don't worry about the minnows, just focus on the mission. I will! Boom! Lightning from the thunder maelstrom swept through a group of contamination creatures that had begun to fall onto the deck. Don't come! Bzz, crackle! The creature's voice rang out again, unpleasant and saturated with static and noise. Must protect it. I don't know what the hell it's protecting, Ridigian sneered coldly, his hand already on the sword at his waist. Sleipnir banked left through a dense cluster of buildings. Less than 100 meters remained to the target. Thud! The airship jolted again, followed by a blaring alarm. Beep! Warning, self-destruct system for airship Sleipnir has been activated. Countdown, 20 minutes. Lady Cirrus, the operator cried urgently. That Frey fairy, she's far more advanced than expected. To breach Niflheim's core security so effortlessly, astounding. Self-destruct. Aaron looked back. Scarlet emergency lights flashed across the deck, signaling crisis. Cirrus here. The situation has changed. Eliminate the target within 20 minutes. 20 minutes, huh? Cirrus could probably cancel the self-destruct system, but the transmission operation has already been delayed too much. It's too dangerous now. We have to complete the Bifrost before we hit the barrier. Plenty of time. I'll finish this in 10. Beep! Redigian switched off his communicator, then turned to face Aaron. Rookie, now's not the time to hesitate. If you're not confident, stand back. I'll handle this alone. Aaron lowered his head. Do I really have to kill it? Redigian wasn't wrong. If they lost Sleipnir, the mission's success rate would plummet to less than 1/10. It would mean breaking through the monster-infested route with nothing but their bodies. We promised to be together. Cleanup done. Doesn't seem like there's many enemies left. Nihaku landed back on the deck, her entire body splattered in the black blood of contamination creatures. She'd taken down hundreds of monsters with little effort. Is this Frey fairy to blame for that? Looks like she's been consuming other contamination creatures to grow stronger, probably over the course of centuries. The airship passed under an overpass. Just as Redigian said, the number of contamination creatures had dropped sharply. Only a thin mist now clung to the streets. Not far away, in a run-down park clearing, a girl stood, swaying. The girl hugged herself tightly. Her dress was filthy, beyond dirty, utterly ragged. Her face was obscured by shadows. Long, tangled black hair draped down to her bare feet. Warning! Special contamination entity level 213. I did my best. The girl's voice trembled as if she were sobbing. Looks like she's done being a little kid, Redigian said with a dry chuckle. That girl is Frey. She didn't look nothing like the fairy Aaron had once seen. She had no wings, and though her frame was small, she appeared fully human. She must have spent a long time in this place. Doesn't seem to be sane. Frey's eyes were hollow. She muttered incoherently with a blank, distant expression. Server 1, affected by the barrier, had supposedly experienced centuries already. Her mind must have slowly deteriorated within the contamination cloud. I want to see him! Sleipnir stopped 30 meters away from the girl. In that moment, save your whining for the afterlife. Redigian lunged, gripping his curved sword. Frey's eyes snapped at his approaching figure. Redigian's foot landed on a shriveled tree branch. It didn't so much as tremble, a feat of otherworldly skill.
He leapt again, closing dozens of meters in under 3 seconds. Frey was level 213. She had breached Sleipnir's firewall, a system protected by multiple layers. Far stronger than a typical contamination creature, but nowhere near his level. Don't come! Bang! Bang, bang! A rapid succession of magical shockwaves detonated where Redigian had just been standing. He lightly stepped out of the blast radius and closed in on Frey. Boom, 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 boom! Left, above, below, right. Redigian's body twisted, leaving afterimages in all directions. Not a single attack made contact. Ha! Ka! A pitch-black spear shot out from behind Frey. Its point split into dozens of strands, all aiming to pierce Redigian's body. But the foundation of all weapon techniques was footwork. His movement, honed to its peak, resembled magic. It was as if the spear veered away from him on its own. Remaining time, 16 minutes, 27 seconds. Thring! The curved blade slid from its sheath. The straightened sword glided toward the girl's neck. One clean stroke, to sever her breath. Redigian's wrist tensioned, and then... Clang! A crude spear shaft clashed against the blade. Redigian came to a halt. The girl had collapsed, clutching her head. It seemed she had just realized how close to death she had been. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Redigian's voice was cold. The one who had deflected his blade was the fourth member of Floor 13's team, Aaron. Screech! Sparks flew as blade met shaft. Aaron was pushed back, feet sliding across the ground, but he did not let go of his spear. "Help me, Loki!" Aaron looked back. Frey was still clutching her head, crying. "This isn't right." "Move." "I won't." Suddenly, Redigian's blade vanished. "Ugh!" Clang! Aaron instinctively swung his spear. A flash burst before his eyes as pain shot through his wrist like it had snapped. "Move." "I won't." Aaron gritted his teeth. Before his eyes, hundreds of blades shimmered and moved. A sword technique, the illusion's secret form. Clang! The spear tip flicked away the curved blade. Ugh! A long red line appeared across Aaron's left thigh. If his reaction had been even slightly slower, his leg would have been severed. There won't be a second time. "You can't kill her!" Aaron clenched his jaw. "That girl was the assigned fairy of Townia." "Townia? The place the master came from?" "Yes." No wonder she seemed familiar. "You're a burden to Han, you idiot. No talent, no ability." Back in Townia, the fairy had often scolded him. Why couldn't he do better, she'd say. But, "Here, take this." At dawn, when Aaron would return to his room barely able to walk, she would quietly hand him a stamina recovery potion. "Didn't Mrs. Yernit say that my brother took Townia's system fairy with him? This Frey is that fairy." Redigian glanced to the side. Aaron also knew what was over there. Remaining time, 14 minutes, 11 seconds. Sleipnir's self-destruct countdown. Set by Frey. "Can't you see the bigger picture? If we let her live, the self-destruct won't stop. Are you trying to blow up the airship? There must be another way. And why would we need one?" Redigian's voice was cold. "Don't you tell me you're saying we should abandon Sleipnir? You want us to sprint through a city clogged with thousands of contamination creatures? If that's what it takes?" Redigian's brow twitched. Aaron had an idea of what that expression meant. Goosebumps rose across his skin, a thick, vivid killing intent that felt like it could crush his body entirely. "Even so, this isn't right. I'm disappointed in Mutin to think he'd take a fool like you as his successor. You have 10 seconds. Move, or I'll cut you down." "There's no need to give me time." Aaron spoke quietly. "Because I'm not moving." Clang! Aaron swung his spear upward. Sparks exploded midair. Redigian had attacked again. "I can't see it." The difference in skill was overwhelming. He couldn't even tell where or how the attacks were coming from. "Isn't your goal to save my brother? Then you absolutely cannot kill this fairy." "And why's that?" "She's someone my brother cherished." Redigian stared down at the trembling Frey. "You're saying the master abandoned his comrade like this?" "There must have been a reason." "Whatever the reason, if she interferes with the mission, she dies. Don't you even understand the basics?" "You're the one who doesn't understand." Aaron's voice was low and firm. "If you kill Frey, my brother will never accept us." Even if we lose the airship and have to walk through hell on foot." Aaron pressed on. "We can't afford to lose his trust."
Chapter 319. Frey. Aaron didn't know why Izel's name had changed, nor why she had been left behind here all alone. The only thing he was certain of was that this pitiful fairy had cherished her bond with his brother more than her own life. He'd heard there had been a chance to escape, yet the girl had chosen to remain, fully aware she would fall apart. The master's heart. Aaron fell silent. At some point, a blade had come to rest against his throat. "You intend to gamble all our lives on something that uncertain?" "I do. There's no way to know whether the master left that fairy behind out of care or because she was useless. What we do know is that if we don't act, we'll lose Sleipnir. Our mission success rate will drop below half. And if the operation fails, will you take responsibility for that? I will only act according to what I believe is right. The curved blade pressed gently into Aaron's neck. A thin line of blood trickled from the shallow cut. Time remaining, 10 minutes, 32 seconds. Barely 10 minutes remained until the airship's self-destruction. If you really intend to see this through to the end, then cut me down and go. Few things are more horrifying than a fool clinging to conviction. Rigion smiled faintly, but a chilling, killing intent still emanated from him. If he made up his mind, Aaron's head would be severed in an instant. Miss Ceres. Aaron looked over Rigion's shoulder. Standing on Sleipnir's deck was Ceres, clad in a crimson coat. "You're here," Rigion said, not turning around. Her gaze fell on the two of them, and on Frey. "You decide. Will you save the ferry and abandon the airship, or continue the mission as planned? What's your opinion? If we abandon our flagship here, I can't guarantee the operation will succeed. In the worst case, we could end up isolated among contamination creatures." She gave a bitter smile. "Put the sword away." "Are you serious?" "I am." Rigion returned his sword to his sheath. Ceres jumped down from the deck and approached Frey, who lay collapsed on the dirt. "Not long ago, we made a similar mistake. Claiming to act in the interest of the Master, we took matters into our own hands. I don't want to repeat a mistake we've already made, even if it means the mission fails. That failure is part of the karma we have to bear." Rigion closed his eyes, then quietly stepped away from Aaron. "Thank you. The decision was Ceres's. Don't thank me. I'm sorry for disrupting the mission. No, you pointed out something important. Without the Master's trust, nothing else matters." Ceres nodded. "Yurnet? I'm here." Yurnet emerged from the mist, Bifrost cradled in her arms. "Can you cancel the self-destruct?" "I'm sorry. Sleipnir has already entered an irreversible self-destruct protocol." Ceres bit her lip. If she had deployed Yurnet at the first sign of hacking, it might have been possible. But 10 minutes had already passed. They were too late. "What about the evacuation order?" "It's been issued." A folding stairway had extended from Sleipnir's side. Operators and mechanics were now pouring out through it. "If we lose the airship, what risks will we face?" "Worse than you'd expect," Yurnet replied, her eyes narrowing. "We're still roughly 8,000 meters from the destination. Traversing that distance without the airship will be extremely demanding. Our breakthrough capacity against contamination hordes will drop dramatically. We'll have to fight through thousands of monsters, one by one." She continued her assessment. "The longer we delay, the worse it gets. The enemy numbers will keep increasing, and the contamination cloud will wear down our condition. You'll have to join the fight directly as well. As you know, I'm unavailable while handling transmission operations." "I see. A suicide run, then," Rigion stated, his voice flat. "Abandon the airship. We'll proceed with the mission under revised parameters." Ceres looked down at Frey, a fairy who had acquired a human body. She must have spent so long here that she had undergone a form of evolution. "Can you hear me?" "We're acting in the name of Niflheim's master, Loki. If you can disable the interference." "Loki, help me." No use. They couldn't communicate. Her mind was gone. "Missel." "Yarg!" With a burst of flame, a fairy appeared beside Ceres. Nissel assessed the situation and nodded. "You want me to help this girl, right?" "Can you do it?" "Detoxing her contamination will be difficult, but I can take her somewhere safe." "I'm counting on you." Nissel fluttered her wings near Frey, then began to spin her hands rapidly in a tight circle. "Fairy hyperskin!" "Wum wum wum!" A flash of light burst from the girl's body. In the next instant, Frey's form shrank. A tiny fairy with 2 pairs of wings, her original appearance. "Relax, I've got her!" Snorting confidently, Nacelle scooped Frey up. With a shimmer of stardust, the 2 fairies vanished. Whew! Saris let out a long breath. In the end, they hadn't managed to cancel the self-destruct. Whoosh! Flames began erupting across Sleipner's hull. Normally, the explosion would consume a radius of hundreds of meters, but thanks to Urnet's emergency intervention, that scenario was avoided. But still, the airship was now completely inoperable. "We're walking now?" Nihaku approached. In one corner of the clearing, the non-combatant heroes stood dazed. "Well, this is a mess," she said, scratching her cheek. To reach the barrier, they'd now have to walk thousands of meters on foot, and without Sleipner's contamination shields or firepower. Screech! A girl in uniform shrank back. The moans of contamination creatures. They had reached the edge of the park. 249 unidentified contamination creatures, level unknown. Shadows began to form all around the clearing. "They've caught our scent." Rygion reached for his sword. If Sleipner was still operational, they could have charged straight through, but not anymore. Looks like special entities are among them, too. His eyes swept the surroundings. The contamination creatures encircling the park were growing at a terrifying rate. Every exit was blocked. There was no escape. Then, "War!" Boom! Suddenly, the ground in one corner of the clearing erupted upward. The spot where the mechanics had huddled together, shattered debris and clumps of dirt scattered as chunks of flesh and blood rained down. Warning! Mutant giant contamination creature, level 211. It stood about 10 meters tall. At first glance, it looked vaguely human, but thick, viscous pus oozed from its skin. Just one? No. Urnette shook her head. With a series of thunderous rumbles, giants burst from every direction. 325 unidentified contamination creatures, level unknown. 17 mutant giant contamination creatures, level 211. The once empty park was instantly filled with monsters. A grand welcome right from the start, huh? Nihaku shrugged and drew her bow. "Siri, think we'll make it to the end?" "We'll have to try."
Saris gripped Levitine. Even if they managed to escape the park, the streets beyond were swarming with contamination beasts. There was no more running. Can we do this? Had they followed Rygion's suggestion, they might have already reached the final zone. But for the sake of a single fairy, Saris's team had taken on an absurd risk. "Hake! Help me!" Saris gritted her teeth. The non-combat personnel at the edge of the clearing had fallen into panic. The sturdy outer deck that once protected them was gone. They were now completely exposed to the monster horde. I'm sorry. She had no time to worry about them. Urnette, still working, had to be protected first. Gah! Crunch. A giant contamination creature slammed its fist down. 2 mechanics were crushed into pulp. The encirclement was complete. Hundreds of monsters and giants were closing in. Break out! Combat formation! The Floor 13 team moved swiftly, forming a circular defense with Urnette at the center. "They're coming! Grrrr!" The lead giant charged forward. Just as Saris drew her sword to strike it down, twip! An arrow pierced the giant's forehead from somewhere above. Nihaku? No, Nihaku blinked and looked up. Twip! A second arrow slammed through the giant's skull, then a third, a fourth, and a fifth. The giant stumbled back. Phew! That was close. I almost didn't make it out. Everyone's eyes turned to the left side of the park. A small shadow leapt between trees,
loosing arrow after arrow. Should have told me the ship was gonna blow. I nearly got roasted waiting inside. Gah! Tung! The now porcupine-like giant collapsed to the ground. A silhouette soared several meters into the air and landed on the back of the fallen monster's head. Behold, the genius beautiful archer makes her grand entrance. Aaron cleared his throat. The other heroes stared in disbelief. Jenna Shirai, she's one of my brother's comrades. You brought her? Rigian turned to Aaron. Yes. Unauthorized entry. I'm sorry. Jenna looked around at the stunned heroes and placed her hands on her hips. Looks like you all need my help. For your information, I'm Han Oppa's best partner since floor 1. We're so close, we don't even need words. Arr! Well, I guess we don't have time for introductions. The contamination creatures were converging. Jenna grinned and extended her right hand. In her palm gleamed a rainbow-colored stone. Fly! She tossed the stone into the air, then jumped high after it. Hero Jenna, 6-star, has used a dimensional stone. Domaksaramu! Summoning ritual initiated. Open! Dimensional gate! A radiant circle of magic formed behind her in a burst of blinding light. Dimensional gate has been activated. You may now summon mounts and support troops to the battlefield. Athing, who had been watching silently until now, finally moved. Select airship, capitalism class, new model for deployment. Yes, no. Whirr! Light erupted from the magic circle drawn in mid-air. Jenna flipped mid-flight and landed smoothly on the prow of the emerging airship. What is this? Saris let out a stunned laugh. From the magic circle emerged a compact airship. Its body was sleek and aerodynamic. The capitalism vessel approached the team. Grrr! The nearby giants all lunged toward the airship at once. Let's do this! Jenna snapped her fingers. Activate airship manual mode. Yes. No. Screech! 10 meters in the air, the capitalism vessel veered sharply to the right and began to accelerate. Chapter 320. Clang. Crash. A section of the capitalism was torn away as it scraped against a building during a sharp turn. The steel-reinforced rear of the airship barreled into the park, sending debris flying. Get on board! We don't have time! Jenna shouted from the prow, barely managing to keep her balance. The capitalism rocked violently from side to side, dodging the attacks of the giants. Taunya's airship! Saris's expression hardened as she watched in silence. There was no time to hesitate. The contamination entities were already closing in. All units, prepare to board. Are you saying we're getting on that thing? Lidogen asked, incredulous. Saris glanced around at the group. This isn't the time to be picky. If there's a chance, we take it. Non-combatants board first. I'll be the last. Everyone move. Screech! The capitalism spun a full 180 above the clearing and plunged downward like a falling spear. The heroes of Niflheim charged toward it. Miss it once and that's it. Stay sharp. Jenna pulled a lever beside her, and the deck's railing dropped down. The capitalism jolted violently as it descended, the bottom scraping against the stone floor with a shriek, throwing up a shower of sparks. Now! The capitalism tilted sharply to the side. Ah! The man at the front screamed as he dove onto the deck. Operators and mechanics followed, sprinting and leaping aboard in a desperate rush. Hup! Lidogen, Nihaku, and Aaron also vaulted onto the deck. Only after confirming everyone had boarded did Saris wrap her arms around Yernit and leap aboard. Boarding complete! Jenna banged on a steel pillar. Before the ship could crash into a giant tree ahead, the capitalism spun 3 times and rocketed upward. Supplies scattered and bounced across the deck in chaos. Gua! I'm going to fall! Nihaku! On it! Nihaku grabbed hold of the heroes who were about to tumble off the deck. The capitalism, having shaken off the pursuing contamination entities, veered away from the park. Aaron looked back. The vast clearing was now swarming with contamination entities. Without Jenna's help, they would have had to fight their way through every single one. Whew! We made it. Finally caught a breather. No need for introductions, right? You've all got places to be. She winked at Saris. Saris's eyebrows twitched. How did you get here? Long story. Opening a dimensional gate here isn't easy. Saris studied the airship. Had the calculations been even slightly off, the capitalism would have been torn apart by dimensional pressure. Even with a rare item like a dimensional stone, one couldn't use it lightly. Without a capable magic technician, such an attempt would have been impossible. Don't think you're the only ones who get to fight. The group turned. A boy in a white robe stepped out of an open door, adjusting the hat on his head. He said his name was Katio, if Aaron remembered right. Aaron had met him a few times as well. While Aaron was out on missions, his brother had recruited Katio, an interdimensional Magitech mission. Ever since his brother disappeared, the boy had holed himself up in the hangar, obsessively researching something. He said this job didn't involve overtime, and here we are going all out to the bitter end. He's going to live forever at this rate. Saris exchanged glances with the other 13th floor members. Ever since being abandoned by the Master, she had discarded her pride. More than anything, these heroes had shared life and death with the Master. In a way, their bond ran deeper than that of Niflheim's heroes. I am Saris Argenheim. I know, Jenna told me. Will you help us? Katio shrugged his shoulders. Thinking about how I was duped still pisses me off. But, well, if I didn't want to help, I wouldn't have come here. Katio glanced at the contamination cloud swirling outside. This was no ordinary place. Below them, hundreds, maybe thousands of monsters were roaming. This new capitalism is an airship I modified over several sleepless nights, fitted with a hell of hell engine. Balance is crap, but speed's not an issue. He said it with pride. The new capitalism. His masterpiece built from his own theoretical model for a super engine. Thank you. Saris bowed her head. Katio silently stepped back into the ship. The party was granted a brief maintenance window, about 3 minutes. They reconfigured the magic circles for data processing and reviewed contingency plans. Though calling it a contingency plan, there was no plan. Just push forward. Saris crossed her arms, visibly anxious. The control room monitors showed the surrounding landscape. Towering shadows with unclear forms roamed the streets searching for something. Our presence has been exposed. The original plan was to speed through dangerous zones before the contamination giants woke up. But due to the incident with Freya, that plan had failed. This won't be easy. 1 or 2 wouldn't be a problem, but they numbered in the dozens. If they spotted the airship, they'd attack all at once. Still, there's no time to waste. The longer they delayed, the worse things would get. Saris steadied herself. The other heroes were already in position. Oh, right. Katio rummaged in his coat and pulled out a vial of pills, handing a few to Saris. Take 3, and give some to your companion. What? You don't know? Then just take them. Katio shoved a handful of pills into his mouth, then pulled a thick rope from his sleeve. The rope slithered on its own and tightly bound his body to a steel pillar. What in the world is he doing? It made no sense. Katio smiled and said, Get ready. Looks like they've found us. Saris checked the external monitors. Among the giants prowling between buildings, a few had spotted the capitalism. With groans, they began closing in on the airship. Time to move. The basic plan was the same with Sleipnir. Nihaku would handle the small fry, Litigin would engage the main threats. Aaron would hold the deck.
Still, Saris was uneasy about how under-equipped the capitalism was. It didn't even have a small ballista mounted. No contamination resistance either. Practically bare bones. "What should we do?" one of the mechanics who had piloted Sleipnir approached. Katio replied in a lazy tone, "Just sit tight. Our master will handle the controls." The contamination entities had already drawn near. "Looks like it's starting." On the deck, Nihaku charged up Brynhild and took a firing stance. Litigen gripped his blade. Roar! 4 giants closed in, surrounding the airship. "Even if it's a little flimsy, it beats walking." The capitalism began to move. "The hull feels kind of weak, but still." Blue flames burst from the rocket engine at the stern. The capitalism turned in midair and continued flying.
Far ahead loomed a black wall, impossibly tall and endless. The operations target? The dimensional barrier separating Eden and the border zone. Screech! 756 unidentified contaminated entities, level unknown, charged from both sides of the buildings. They sprinted on 4 legs and lunged toward the airship, faster than most cars. "Where's the flak? We need to suppress them!" Screech! The contamination entity shrieked and leapt. The capitalism performed a sudden 720-degree spin and shot straight upward. Yeah? The creatures below lost sight of their target and plummeted. In midair, the airship spun in a figure 8. "Nice drift! You have gained momentum from special flight." Between crumbling apartment complexes, 132 unidentified flying contaminants, level unknown, took flight in formation. The blue flames at the rear intensified. And then, boom! The capitalism burst forward. Ah! It tore through the flying monsters head-on. Dozens smashed into the prow and exploded into gore. "Wait!" The ship flipped upside down. Spinning rapidly, the capitalism nearly crashed, but at the last second it angled upward and shot skyward. A violent tremor shook the deck. "This piloting is a bit off." Thunk, thunk, thunk! The ship began shaking like mad. In under 10 seconds, the capitalism accelerated to hundreds of kilometers per hour, like a missile. Geek! Gah! Eek! Hundreds of contamination entities instantly became dogs chasing a runaway train. Of course, another horde was waiting up ahead. Screech! Just before impact, the capitalism banked 90 degrees and veered toward a nearby building. "Stop!" Litigian couldn't finish. "Crash! Smash!" The airship smashed through the glass facade and wrecked the interior office space. Whoosh! Friction surpassed its limits. Flames ignited beneath the hull. The capitalism didn't slow down one bit. Like a berserk beast, it blasted straight through the building. Screams rang out inside. "Warning! Contaminated Jormungandr! Level 322! Hiss! A massive serpent uncoiled from a skyscraper and opened its maw. It was several hundred meters long, casting darkness over the surroundings. "Watch out ahead!" The capitalism dodged, banking to escape the serpent's mouth. Its tail whipped around to strike, but the ship spun 7 times and narrowly evaded. Cargo tumbled across the deck. Wait! Slow down a little!" Aaron yelled, clinging to the railing. "Nope! No time! We're gonna fall at this rate! Full speed ahead! Boom! Super boost!" The capitalism's engines blazed with fiery intensity.
Screech! Screech! The capitalism pulled off 12 aerial maneuvers and accelerated even further. Stop! Are you trying to kill us? Lydigians shouted in panic. We won't die! Whoosh! The airship slipped past the serpent's head, skimming across its scales. Sleipnir? That thing was so slow I nearly yawned. Are you insane? This is how an airship is supposed to fly. It entered a dense cluster of buildings, darting through a tangled maze of corridors. Hundreds of contamination monsters lunged, but not one touched it. Nice drift! Super boost! Nice drift! Mega boost! Nice drift! Hell boost! Sometimes fast, sometimes bizarre. Crash! Smash! The side of the airship scraped against a building's edge. It looked nothing like when it first launched, badly dented, battered. Without those added metal plates, it would have shattered long ago. Ding ding! Hero Largan, 3-star, has fainted. Hero Shumi, 2-star, has fainted. Hero Mahatran, 4-star, is... Everyone in the control room who wasn't a combatant had lost consciousness. The fire sparked by friction spread across the deck. This was acceleration beyond limits. Whirr! The engine whined. The booster flame turned pure white. Even with turns, the speed wouldn't drop. An almost supernatural drift carved an S-curve through the air. The pressure pressed directly on the heroes inside. Ah! Special title achievement! You have obtained Hell Driver!
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.